Hello, and welcome to I Hate Talking, a podcast about talking, including etymology, frustrating topics, current events, and other random subjects. I'm Adam.
And I'm Steph. We are married, and we invite you into these discussions with us as we talk about the good and the bad of talking.
We hope you enjoy today's episode. All right, we are here with a bonus episode, and this is being recorded and will be dropped immediately on this 13th day of July, 2024.
Hi, I wish it was for exciting. Well, it is exciting. I wish it was for good news why we were doing this podcast tonight.
Well, there are some that may consider the fact that President Trump is still alive bad news, unfortunately. But there is some good news in the events that took place earlier today in the fact that he is still alive.
Yes, but there are people that aren't alive. At least one, and a second one in critical condition, correct?
Yes, according to reports that we've been catching up on, is that there is one confirmed fatality of an audience member, another audience member that is in critical condition, and the shooter is deceased as well, according to reports.
Should we back up just in case and explain what happened a couple hours ago?
I think that's a good idea. So President Trump, who is running for president, but the previous president as well, so a little bit confusing maybe for some of our international listeners. He is not currently the sitting president, but he was a president nonetheless, so we still refer to him as President Trump. But he had an attempt on his life during a rally in Pennsylvania, and this was done by a firearm of some sort. Initial reports are saying a rifle, and the attempt was unsuccessful. However, it does appear that he had been hit with a single shot of the volley of at least 5 shots that went through his right ear.
Mm-hmm.
So we are doing this special episode because, from my memory, this is actually the first assassination attempt, successful or otherwise, that has occurred during our lifetime.
Right, yeah. When I was looking it up a little bit ago, it looks like there have been attempts, but nothing to this extreme. It looks like other attempts to other presidents or even Trump were stopped a lot sooner. So this is the first time, like you said, in our history that a president or former president was shot and injured.
Exactly. According to our research, there was a plot in 1993 to assassinate George H.W. Bush during a visit to Kuwait. However, that was stopped, and many people were arrested, so that did not even come close to being completed. And then in 1994, I actually do remember this event, but I wouldn't necessarily call it an assassination attempt, because there was a gentleman that just fired shots at the White House from outside the fence, perhaps not necessarily intending to kill, but maybe just drawing attention or just acting out some sort of psychotic episode. So I do actually remember that event, but I don't believe that the President, Bill Clinton, at that time had been in any danger. And then there was an attempt on George W. Bush in 2005, but that was actually while he was no longer president. So that was after he had finished his term, where there was a grenade that was thrown at him, but the grenade failed to detonate. Wow. Because it was wrapped too tightly in a handkerchief. So there's a few things that I think are important for our listeners, as well as just anybody that is consuming news. And this list comes from onthemedia.org. We'll put the link in the show notes and try to put a image to this list as well. But they have what is called Breaking News Consumer's Handbook. So this is a list of 9 things. Surprised that they couldn't round it out with 10, but nonetheless, number 1 is in the immediate aftermath, news outlets will get it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And we're already starting to see that. There were some initial news reports that said that the audience member that was being evacuated because they had been hit was actually the shooter.
Oh, wow. Okay, I didn't hear that.
Number 2 is don't trust anonymous sources.
That makes sense. If they're not willing to put their name down, then if they're not trustworthy enough to put their name down, they're not trustworthy enough to listen to.
Exactly. And because they are anonymous, they are either maybe passing on facts that are unverified, or they just might be straight up making up things to try to draw some attention. Number 3 is don't trust stories that cite another news outlet as the source of the information.
So I'm confused by that one. So a smaller news company can't cite a larger one?
So I think the important thing on this one is that there may be news outlets or, again, maybe individual sources that are citing something and then just making up their own story. And because it has a citation, people will trust it more readily without actually going to the citation. So the citation may not even be legitimate, or it may be a legit link, but the information in that cited work does not match what they are saying.
I see. So maybe they're using a name of a big news outlet for credibility.
Exactly.
Okay, I got that. Okay, I got it. Next.
Number 4, there's almost never a second shooter.
Huh. Okay.
So, Grassy Knoll, Vegas, and I've actually have seen some reports, even for the events today, that there were a supposed second shooter. However, in the midst of the chaos, there is a lot of things going on, and people will misremember or maybe even think that the law enforcement that is responding is actually a bad shooter in that scenario.
That makes sense. And there could be echoes or, like you said, the law enforcement that is reacting to it. That's why for the Revolutionary War, right? No one knows who shot the first shot.
Precisely, but it was heard around the world.
Okay.
Number 5, pay attention to the language the media uses. So these are some keywords that the reporters may use to infer a particular meaning. We are getting reports. Could mean anything. Basically, that just means that they are hearing these things, and again, it's unsubstantiated thus far. We are seeking confirmation. That means they don't have it. So that is that they're saying something that they're seeking confirmation on. That means they do not have confirmation that that is true. And then if they say that another news outlet has, quote unquote, learned, that means that it has a scoop or it's going out on a limb. So they actually may have something, or again, you may have even the news outlets participating in some of these things that are warned against in the previous points, and they actually are just creating misinformation.
Okay.
Number 6 is some positive things. We can look for news outlets close to the incident.
So we can probably trust if somebody was there, a news outlet that was there versus one that's across the world.
Exactly, yep,
Okay.
because those across the world or even in the major markets are going to be getting their information second or third hand, whereas people that are working for local news outlets will actually be on site or at least have known people that they have as resources that are close to the incident.
Okay.
Number 7 is compare multiple sources.
Mm-hmm.
So basically looking at a number of different news outlets to see if they're being corroborated. The information that one says being similar or the same as another. However, right, as we've been warned in previous statements that we can't trust stories that cite another news outlet as the source of information unless we actually corroborate and actually go to that site and make sure that what they are saying is the same thing.
Right. Do your due diligence.
Number 8 is big news brings out the fakers and photoshoppers.
Yeah, that's a scary one nowadays, especially with Photoshop and AI and all that. Like a picture used to be worth 1,000 words and it's not anymore.
Yep, and I think we're even starting to see that with video as well, with deep fakes and things of that nature. So again, everybody's looking for some attention here potentially, and that big news or these events is causing some of that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Number 9 is the last one on the list here. Beware reflexive retweeting. Some of this is on you.
Okay, elaborate on that one.
So that is basically continuing the cycle of these anonymous sources or citing things without verification, that if you just see a headline or a tweet or some short article on something that's going on and then just reflexively repost that or pass that on, that you're just perpetuating the cycle of this misinformation.
Okay.
So on to the actual events and just some of the things that we've been seeing. So like we said, this did happen in Pennsylvania, and interesting to note that I do have some friends and family in the state of Pennsylvania, not near this incident per se, but it actually saw some reports from some of them that there was a second active shooter just a few short hours after the assassination attempt.
And have you followed up and heard anything about that? Because I did a quick search when you mentioned that to me, and I couldn't find anything. But obviously, President Trump's news is gonna hit more.
Yeah, do you think that's what everybody is paying attention to? I did see it from a real person that I trust on these things, so I don't think that they would be reporting that in an erroneous fashion. But I have not seen any follow-up to that. And again, just because there is a live shooter scenario, that means that law enforcement has been called. They are getting to the scene. Does not mean that there is actually an active shooter, just that the active shooter situation has been invoked.
Right, because right now, we don't want to give false information either way. But right now, everyone's so heightened and on alert that you could think something isn't happening or something is, and maybe it was planned, or it's, everyone's emotions right now are so heightened, both sides, like whether you like Trump or not. I feel like most people have some emotions tonight about what's happening.
Yep. So some of the news that I'll follow comes from Reddit as just the front page of the internet,
Reddit,
so to say, and accumulating some of those news articles. They actually shut down comments for a period tonight. They have not said publicly why they did that, and they may never say that on exactly why they did that, but that the theory, again, take this with a grain of salt and be aware of everything that we just stated from those list of 9 warnings. But the theory is that it is because the comment section was actually filled with people wishing that the attempt had been successful.
Wow.
Now, there is some odd conspiracy theories out there. One of the ones that I chuckled at is people quoting Revelation 13:3, which says, "And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast."
So are they calling Trump the beast? Is he magically healed? I'm confused.
Yeah, I think they're basically saying that he's the Antichrist, and
okay.
I don't think that that's a apt application of that particular verse. He certainly was not appeared wounded to death. He jumped up pretty quickly, and
because he was magically healed.
Oh, magically healed! Yes, right there by the Secret Service members laying their hands on him. But they were actually, from what I could tell, trying to keep him down, trying
Right.
to surround him, keep him protected. And he was trying to get back to his speech, or at least make sure everybody knew that he was okay.
Right. I feel like, I mean, I don't know him personally, obviously, but from just watching his personality, my opinion, because it definitely looked like they were trying to keep him down and he was fighting to get up. I felt like, yeah, either he wanted to do his speech or he wanted to show everyone he was okay and like that I'm strong. I'm bigger than this or better than this. You know, if we're just pausing for a second, when this happened, we were planning on doing a family dinner, or we did family dinner. We were planning on watching a movie tonight. I got ice cream for the family, so it was going to be a fun thing. And I was prepping all that when you let me know, like, hey. And so I stopped prepping and came right over to see. And we were watching the replay that just happened seconds ago. And our kids, well, a couple of them came over and they were interested. And it was really hard to like be interested in what was happening, but also knowing that they're watching this. And they were like, what's happening? Is he okay? And so we're trying to say like, oh, look, he's walking off the stage. So he's okay. Because they thought he may have passed away. We're like, no, he's okay because he's walking. So even the fact that he did stand up and walk, I think, whether that was his intention or not, gave at least us a relief of like, as our child was inadvertently watching the scene happen live, and like, you know, that we could just say, he's okay, he'll be okay.
Exactly. So some other conspiracy theories that are out there. We've seen some people theorizing that this was either didn't even happen
Right.
or was all staged.
All staged, yeah.
Which is, I think, pretty incredible. But
Fake
again,
blood.
people are making huge jumps to conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
So that was some of the things that we saw out there. We did see some posts about the person in the audience that appears to have passed away, and that is seems like that person was hit in the head and passed away in the audience, in the bleachers. And there's some photographs of that after the scene. And then there's also an interesting interview that the BBC has, but it actually is a in-person interview of a BBC reporter with a gentleman that was not at the rally but was adjacent to the rally. And that particular person is on this interview saying that they actually saw the shooter bear crawling with a rifle on a roof, notified police officers, but they did not stop or were unable to stop the shooter before anything transpired.
Mm-hmm.
Which there's a number of people commenting on that, in that the law enforcement should have notified Secret Service and started pulling Trump off the stage. But obviously hard to know exactly what transpired, and these things can take from mere seconds to minutes to make these things come to be. So hard to say exactly what was going on. There are a number of photos and even some quote unquote people that were on-site witnesses, again according to their own commentary here, that the snipers that were set up as overwatch for the president did seem to perhaps become more actively alert and were actually trained on the supposed roof of where the shooter was. So there may have been some advance notice, or perhaps the law enforcement Secret Service sniper did see this happening and was checking out what was going on. So again, lots of information that is happening real time, and we all have to take with a grain of salt. But we do know at this point in time, 1 dead in the audience, 1 critically injured in the audience. The shooter is dead, and President Trump appears to be perfect health, except for his ear.
Well, yeah, so hurt, but okay. to give, I mean, yeah, I heard that story too of the gentleman that and his friends that saw this happen. And I think he say he spoke to a local, like a police officer, right? All I'm saying, like, to give them all a benefit of a doubt is I remember, man, like 20 years ago, we were in DC and my brother saw someone on a roof with a gun. And there were tons, we were at, I think it was the Capitol, and there are tons of people. And he asked him, this, one of the guards there, like, is that guy with a gun supposed to be there? And the guy's countenance, like, it changed. You could see, like, he was like on alert at that moment. He's like, where? And he pointed and he's like, oh, yeah. Like, I guess it was like another guard that just hangs out on the roof, just laying there. I don't know, apparently. So, if they're saying that, if it's a local person, they might not know where all of Secret Service are, where all their snipers are. You know what I mean? Like, they could have been like, oh, yeah, it's probably one of those. Or they could have been checking with somebody else who needed to check with whoever, right? And figure out where everybody is and if this guy is a real threat or if he is security.
Yep. So again, goes back to situational awareness, right? It's good that your brother was aware of those things. I think we all need to be aware of those things as well. So as we wrap this bonus episode up, there are a few things that are just, again, interesting to note. There is a quote from Joe Biden on July 9th, 2024, where he said, "It's time to put Trump in the bullseye."
What are you alleging there?
Not alleging anything. I think that some people are alleging that this is somehow perpetrated by the Democrats or in some way their supporters. I don't think that is the case. I think that if attempt, especially in this case being unsuccessful, will galvanize Trump supporters. And even if they had been successful with this assassination attempt, that again, the Trump base would have been galvanized, and a lot of the swing states probably would not be as much of a swing state anymore, but would rather go to grassroots Trump supporters. Another interesting quote is Senator Chuck Schumer said, "The intelligence community has 6 ways till Sunday to get back at you," talking about President Trump. So again, another interesting quote that not sure exactly the date on that one, but that was, I think, either actually today or earlier this week. So again, don't think that there was any purposeful intent by any of the Democrats' comments on either of these statements. However, it may be interesting to consider if the shooter was in some way encouraged or incited to violence by any of these comments. We'll never know, I think. It took a number of years for the Nashville Shooter Manifesto to come out, and that was only, I think, through non-official means. So I don't think we'll ever have the entire story on this situation. But nonetheless, we can do our due diligence and consider some of the strategies that we outlined at the beginning of the episode from onthemedia.org and be able to diligently be aware of what is going around us in our world.
Right. And be aware of the words we use too. Especially nowadays, how everything's recorded. Just words, even if you just say them out of frustration or anything, they can really cause harm. Whether, and just like right now, as a nation, those who are us that are in the States, like, I think I'm concerned about the coming days. Already, there was such a divide and a lot of anger on both sides. And I'm just worried about what's going to happen I just feel like there's going to be more anger and more polarization. And I just want us all to be kind and use nice words. There's a family right now that their spouse or whoever it was that passed away, isn't coming home tonight. And they were expecting them to. And there's another one that's in the hospital. Hopefully will return home eventually. But there are people right now that are really hurting. And our mean words and our jumping to conclusions isn't helping anything.
Exactly. So we can always consider those things. So from your friends at I Hate Talking, until next time, remember, it is only through talking that we begin the journey to understanding.